Maritime Foundation present here, and I'm delighted to be present here for the ASEAN-India Connectivity Summit and to share my thoughts with this august audience. India is essentially a maritime nation with a natural outflow towards the seas, and the country sits astride busy sea lines of communication that transit across the Indian Ocean, over which nearly 100,000 ships transit every year, carrying 66% of the world's oil, 50% of the world's container traffic, and 33% of the world's cargo traffic. Peninsula India, as you know, juts into the Indian Ocean, and our island territories of Andaman and Nicobar in the Bay of Bengal and the Lakshadweep Islands in the Arabian Sea act as virtual extended arms of India. We have a coastline of 7,516 kilometers, an exclusive economic zone of over 2 million square kilometers. We have over 1,300 islands and islets as part of the Andaman and Nicobar group, the Lakshadweep group, and islands off the west and east coast of India. Over 90% of our trade by volume and 72% by value transits by sea, and this accounts for nearly 50% of the country's GDP. Our vast maritime interests, which are also enablers of our blue economy, provide an opportunity for greater connectivity and maritime cooperation with ASEAN as we sail past the waypoint of 25 years of ASEAN-India dialogue partnership this year. ASEAN itself has grown significant in stature, and India considers ASEAN a major economic, trade and strategic partner. India's transition from the look east to the act east policy signals greater proactive cooperation with the ASEAN, particularly in the maritime sector. Oceans, as you all know, are central to life on Earth. They are rich in oil and mineral resources. They are suppliers of oxygen, absorbers of carbon dioxide, a virtual heat sink, rich in biodiversity, which have emerged as the global economic highways for transit of seaborne trade. With depletion of resources on land, humankind has turned towards the seas for resources. And there is a misperception that the oceans are an unending resource base and are an infinite sink. Nothing could be further away from reality. Over the past few decades, we have witnessed indiscriminate pollution of the oceans and contamination of the natural marine habitat, resulting in an adverse impact of climate change on the oceans. Studies have indicated that nearly 80% of all pollutants in the ocean emanate from land. And if the current rate of pollution continues, in a few decades from now, we will have more plastic in the ocean than fish. The concept of blue economy has emerged as a new paradigm, and I would like to define harnessing the blue economy as economic development of our maritime interests with optimal utilization of marine resources, with minimum impact on the environment, and ensuring sustained development of the oceans. In recent years, under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, there have been a series of initiatives for development in the maritime domain, including the quest to harness the blue economy. The Honorable Prime Minister has articulated his vision for the Indian Ocean as Sagar, which, as you know, means the ocean, and the acronym stands for security and growth for all in the region. These are pointers to indicate that India has once again turned towards the seas and is destined to emerge as a resurgent maritime nation. I will now look into aspects that, as part of the recent initiatives, the government has prepared a comprehensive island development plan, taking into account aspects of security, economic sustenance, environment preservation, and cultural and social sustenance. And I will outline some of the maritime sectors in India, particularly related to island development, which are likely to witness significant growth in the coming years and could also provide avenues for connectivity and maritime cooperation with the ASEAN. As part of the Island Development Plan, it is envisaged to have greenfield infrastructure projects with a zero carbon footprint to promote controlled eco-based tourism. This would open up a host of opportunities for air connectivity, setting up of cruise terminals, marinas for leisure sailing, as well as resorts, with the aim to promote tourism and specifically cruise tourism with the ASEAN. The Bay of Bengal is the largest bay in the world, with 7 countries located on the rim of the bay. Andaman Nicobar Islands, as you all know, comprise about 500 odd islands and islets and is located in the central part of the bay, and there is a need for greater connectivity from the ports in the islands to the ASEAN. India currently has 12 major ports and over 200 minor and intermediate ports. The government has launched an ambitious Sagarmala project, which is a port-led development initiative based on 4 pillars of port modernization, connectivity, port-led industrialization, and coastal community development. The enhancement of port infrastructure in the islands would enable better connectivity with ASEAN. This would also open up avenues for coastal shipping routes as well as inter-island connectivity. These initiatives could then be further pursued as part of the Master Plan for ASEAN Connectivity, or MPAC 2025, as well as the ASEAN-India Maritime Transport Cooperation Agreement. India has a thriving fishing industry with over 250,000 fishing boats, 4 million part of the active fishing community, 14 million part of the fishing population. Our annual catch is in the region of 9.5 million tons, and this accounts for nearly 5.5 billion US dollars in terms of foreign exchange on account of exports through fisheries. But this is only scratching the surface, because 90% of fishing in Indian waters, including in the island areas, is coastal in nature. Whereas we have the entire exclusive economic zone up to nearly 200 nautical miles to be exploited. There is hardly any deep sea fishing in Indian waters, and it is said that fish in deep Indian waters are dying of old age. This provides an opportunity for deep sea fishing projects between India and ASEAN to harness the blue economy. Ocean-based renewable sources of energy is another upcoming maritime sector in areas such as offshore wind energy, tidal and wave energy, and ocean thermal energy conversion. This has particular relevance in the islands because the depth of water of the Andaman Nicobar Island falls rapidly, and there is a temperature differential of nearly 20 degrees between the surface and up to 1,000 meters. The power generated could be utilized to provide the energy needs of the islands, and this is another area which would see cooperation between India and ASEAN in the future. We can therefore see that there is a vast spectrum of opportunities for enhancing connectivity as well as harnessing the blue economy between India and ASEAN. The challenge, however, is to ensure that these are greenfield infrastructure projects with a minimum impact on the environment. India and ASEAN have vast maritime interests, and the responsibility for protecting these interests falls squarely on the shoulders of men in white uniform. because it is the responsibility of the navies and the coast guards to ensure that our maritime interests, which have a vital relationship with the region's economic growth, are allowed to develop unhindered at all times. The Indian Navy actively engages the navies of the ASEAN for exercises, for initiatives in capacity building, in capability enhancement, for coordinated patrols, as well as for information exchange to enhance the maritime domain awareness. Safety, security and stability in the waters around us is of paramount importance, because it is the collective responsibility of the navies to ensure the security of the global commons. This would provide us safe and secure seas to pursue the economic development of our maritime interests. India and ASEAN are maritime neighbors who have extended their hand of cooperation across the seas for maritime cooperation, and I am sure that this will build up into partnership for harnessing the blue economy, which I would like to term as partnership for prosperity in the maritime domain. This will open up avenues for cooperation and connectivity between India and ASEAN and ensure sustained development of the oceans. In conclusion, I would like to highlight three major takeaways. The United Nations document Transforming Our World, Agenda 2030, and the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 14, provide a template for conservation of oceans, seas and resources. We now need to outline a perspective plan for sustained development and growth in different avenues of the maritime sector. India and ASEAN have considerable potential to harness the blue economy and to fully implement the Honorable Prime Minister of India's vision of Sagar, which is security and growth for all in the region. We need to come up with a comprehensive maritime cooperation roadmap so as to shape a positive and favorable environment in the region. And finally, the Honorable Prime Minister has launched a dynamic initiative of Swachh Bharat, which is Clean India. We could consider extending this concept to Swachh Sagar, which is clean oceans. Oceans are common heritage of mankind, and India and ASEAN need to come up with an action plan to ensure clean oceans for our future generations. Thank you and Jai Hind.